Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm checking out a dark comedy from 1992. That movie is Man Bites Dog. Now, I have heard of this movie. In fact, I have wanted to watch it for many, many years now. Allow me to tell you, though, what little I know about it. Mind you, this very little bit of info is what has fascinated me so much. First of all, the film is French, and I'm still waiting to find a good French film. Hopefully this will break that streak here. Two, the movie is a mockumentary, and I've always enjoyed mockumentaries, especially stuff like Best in Show, and This is Spinal Tap, amongst others. But it's a mockumentary following a serial killer. That sounds really cool, okay? I'm really interested in this. I have high hopes on this movie, but I also do know, and I've already stated it once in here, the somewhat sketchy track record French films have with this series. I've yet to find a good French film, and we're almost up to 450 episodes. Again, I'm hoping for this movie to break that streak. Good God, I want that streak broken so badly. And I want this movie to be good, but the only way I'm going to find out if it is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Man Bites Dog. Okay, now, I have just seen our killer here, Benoit, throw two bodies off of ledges or bridges to go put them into rivers. Does he just not know how to find a really deep river or lake in France? Because guys, in both instances, he has dumped the bodies in rivers that were so fucking shallow, the water barely covers the body. At that point, you really don't have to put any ballast on it. It's not going to do any fucking good. I mean, guys, so far, guys, the movie is really cool. It's really fascinating and interesting and everything. It's just, are there really just no deep bodies of water in France? I'm sorry, guys. It just kind of bugs me a little bit. Okay, that is really a fascinating gamble. So, he noticed that she had heart meds on the table, so he pulls a gun and screams at her in hopes that she'll have a heart attack. What do you know, coincidentally, she does exactly that, so he doesn't have to shoot her. Well, what if that wouldn't have worked? You're screaming and shouting, immediately followed by the necessary gunshot, would have then probably called every single neighbor in, and you would have been completely fucked. Still, though, the very fact that he was ballsy enough to do that was sort of cool. Well, guys, I believe that we have hit that moment. I have found in almost every mockumentary I have ever watched, we've hit that point where the film kind of sort of drags. I honestly am not blaming it on this film, and I'm not going to hold it against this film. It is a common thing I've noticed in almost every mockumentary. It always sucks when you find that moment, man, because you then know that you're in for about 20 minutes of absolute sheer hell where the movie just doesn't know where to fucking go. It's kind of lost, and it's going to drag its feet until it gets back to something interesting. So, next 20 minutes or so, probably going to kind of suck a little bit. So our serial killer and his documentary film crew have just stumbled on another killer with a documentary crew. And now they're going to, I guess, kill the fucking competition. Well, I guess that makes sense, because you really do want to be the only serial killer-centric documentary on the market. Otherwise, you would look like a fucking hack. Still, that is certainly kind of clever and sort of cool. I honestly am kind of digging that. Okay, can we please just leave this fucking hospital now? Because Ben's fucking roommate here is really starting to just irritate me. Oh Christ, he's singing again. Can we please cut to another scene, please? This movie was really starting to get interesting again, and you've been dragging your feet in this goddamn hospital now for like the last 3 minutes. It's starting to get really tiresome. And irritating since his roommate refuses to stop singing and shitting everywhere. Well, guys, that was Man Bites Dog. Let me shut that off. Okay. Wow. I don't want to spoil anything, but with that ending, who the fuck edited all of this together? If it is meant to be a mockumentary, and I'm trying not to spoil here, but that fucking question probably gives away everything. Who the fuck edited all of this footage together? I'm not going to go into detail. I really don't want to spoil much. Plus, the ending was kind of shit anyway. I will touch on that in just a minute. But before I start talking about the ending, I do have to say, I'm proud to say right now that the reaction and review French curse has been lifted. Granted, this movie isn't perfect, but it's certainly at least watchable. It's certainly good. Good to some point, which is more than I can say about every other French film I've covered. And I feared I would never find a good French film. Behold the movie that broke that streak. Now, while I say that the movie is good, it is not without its problems. Almost all these problems come in the writing. Now, part of it, I'm going to tell you, is the fact that what we have here is a mockumentary, and there is always some pitfalls that kind of sort of hit most, if not all, mockumentaries. In fact, I cannot think of one that didn't hit this, where the middle of the film is incredibly weak. The middle 20 to 30 minutes kind of sucks. All right, now mind you, this guy's was true about even the best ones. All right, this guy's was true about Spinal Tap. It was true about Best in Show. It was true about CSA. It was true about Comic Book the Movie. It's true about this one. The middle drags, and holy mother of fuck does it ever drag. But I'm not going to blame the movie on that. Hell no. I'm going to blame it on the genre it chose, because that genre, it just seems to be a common problem. So I kind of sort of saw it, coming. It's just, my God, it doesn't matter which film it is, guys. When you hit that dull patch in the middle of your mockumentary, my God, it really does bring everything to a full stop, and you're waiting patiently for something interesting to happen. Now, barring that, we do have the writing. Now this is a dark comedy, and while there is a lot of really good humor in here, some stuff that I found to be really clever, really witty, really funny, a lot of the other jokes and a whole lot more of like the satire of the film almost seems to fall flat. And I'm going to theorize that it might be because there's something lost in translation when you go from French to English. I'm not totally sure if all these jokes and all this stuff really translates well to English. So if I spoke French, if I had any knowledge of French culture and all that other kind of happy horse shit, I'd probably be more into this film. I'd probably be laughing at a hell of a lot more of the jokes. Or perhaps maybe it's that the subtitles weren't quite translated right, and ultimately it leads to jokes that kind of fall a little bit flat. I do not totally know, and I couldn't even seriously hazard any sort of guess. Because I'm going to tell you what is here, at least with the subtitles, it certainly seems as if it's trying, and it would probably work, again, if I spoke French, or perhaps maybe there are people who actually do speak French, who've seen this movie, and can tell me whether or not there are certain jokes that would just benefit more from being in French than being in English. I would not be at all shocked if that is in fact the case. Now, let's talk about the final act, because the final act is a little bit puzzling. I'm not going to go into any spoilers, even though without directly saying it, I think I kind of spoiled the ending of the film. But let's talk about the stuff leading up to that. So we get some footage. Of Ben as he's trying to mug and potentially kill a postman. He kind of says that he does this on his Mondays. It's kind of his way to kick off his week. but he still has the neck injury he suffered earlier, and his neck is still in the brace and everything, and he fails. Now, we see the footage of the failure, and then we see Ben looking over the footage, talking about how the film crew should have, been there to help him and to have actually stopped the postman, so that way his Monday could go off just fine. Just basically asking, he was asking the documentarian and his crew to do the one thing a documentarian is not supposed to do, and that is interfere with the subject, which is, I should mention something which this fucking documentarian does constantly, and it kind of sort of ruins the whole fucking mystique of this thing being a mockumentary, when our film crew are so willing to actively take part in these murders, these rapes, and hiding all of the bodies. Anyway, so we have Ben looking over this failed fucking attempt, as he's chewing out the film crew. All of a sudden, with zero warning, Ben is in jail. There was no evidence of him ever being picked up. There was nothing. There was nothing. He is still hurt, and he is chewing out the film crew. Suddenly, boom! He is in jail. He's charged, and apparently he was found guilty because his lawyer is talking about appeals. So we have that massive jump. I'm going to assume that there was something in the middle that was probably missing there that would have helped. Like, I don't know, maybe footage of the cops picking up Ben. That might have helped. And then Ben breaks out, and then we get to the ending. And the ending takes forever to happen. And I'm going to tell you guys, it starts off kind of sort of tragic as we see what's going on with Ben's loved ones. Again, not going to try to spoil much. However, though, when you see that, and when you saw a couple of the scenes earlier, you know exactly how this thing is going to end, and you're waiting for it to happen. And when it finally happens, it honestly doesn't shock you in the slightest. Now, if they didn't do the stuff with Ben's family, if they didn't do as much foreshadowing, it probably would have been a massive shock, and the ending would have absolutely benefited from that. However, we have to kind of stick with what is given. And what is given is a plotting ending which takes forever to get there, and does not shock you as hard as it wants to. As hard as that ending wants to be this shocking sudden thing, it really isn't. And you see it coming from a mile out. It's either that, or I've watched so many of these goddamn movies that nothing honestly shocks me, and even sudden fucking, like, boom endings like that do nothing for me. I'm not totally sure. Beyond all that, though, guys, writing here actually is pretty good. It is sort of fascinating. I would have liked it a little bit more if our fucking mockumentary on a serial killer focused just a hair more on the killing and less on time with family and friends and art galleries and all that. Because okay, all of that is fine in order to build Ben as a character, but you can't focus on that when everyone's coming to see him kill, because you came to see the serial killer kill people, and that takes a back seat to his time in the hospital and his time with family and his boxing training and his time at a fucking art gallery and working on music with one of his buddies. Just all of this other shit. All of that becomes the frontal focus when it should have focused just a little bit more on the killing. And the film even teases it. It teases it by sometimes going into these short montages of like 30 seconds with maybe like 3 to 4 second shots of him shooting people, strangling people, whatever, and dumping tons of bodies into that fucking quarry. But we never get to see any of that. Like, we honestly get to listen to Ben as he bitches about low-cost housing for like 2 minutes. We get to see him go on this racist rant because he had to kill a black guy who happened to be guarding a construction site. But we don't really get to see a whole lot of the focus on our serial killer killing people. Which, okay, and mind you guys, I'm not asking for 90 fucking minutes of him killing people, but I'd be asking for a little bit more than the next to nothing this film finally offers. However, once more, even though, guys, the film is sort of lacking there, what is here is still certainly worth checking out. Acting. Well, because this was a mockumentary, I have this strong feeling a lot of the stuff wasn't scripted as much as just sort of like planned out and then just kind of sort of improv as the camera's going. Especially since I'm actually looking at our list of writers, or I should say scenario. I'm going to assume, because all this is in French, scenario and dialogue, which again tells me it wasn't written as much as just planned out. And the names of these three people, Remy, Andre, and Benoit, just happened to be the names of our documentarian, our cameraman, and our killer. And then there's Vincent, who I believe was a sound guy. He was one of the many sound guys this crew has, because they happen to lose sound guys about as often as Spinal Tap loses fucking drummers. And I did find that to be kind of funny, especially since after 2 out of the 3 killings, we then have Remy in his room, a camera facing him. It actually looks kind of sort of like this. He's weeping and talking about how this film is fucking dedicated to you, and you were just such an awesome trooper. And then we go right back into the action. That third kill, that third fucking sound guy kill, I'm gonna tell you, it came literally out of nowhere, and the long, awkward silence that followed made it probably the funniest scene in the entire movie. So guys, writing here is good, acting here is really solid, especially since I'm going to assume everybody here was just straight up fucking improvising everything, which I'm totally cool with. Our sound mix is really good. I do have to credit this film on actually having realistic sound, so that actually means that when everybody is in this giant factory and they're trying to find Ben's bracelet, and the sound guy is like 2 floors down, you can barely hear anybody else as they're shouting, but you can hear everything which is going on the sound guy's end, because he happens to have the boom mic on him, and it's still live. So that much there was really cool. Any time that someone has to hold on to the boom mic in a really awkward way in order to help like take care of like bodies or what have you, the sound actually works perfectly for that. And I'm going to give them mad props for actually bothering to have a sound mix that makes, sense here. That was certainly awesome. Our camera work here is really good, minus I'm just going to say, when it came to the ending, it really didn't help that the last minute of the film is done in slow motion, and it takes forever to fade out. That, honestly, though, is more editing because, well, the camera was supposed to be on the ground anyway. And so the camera's just pointing in one, spot. Except it's essentially a shot of nothing. And you just see, like dust and smoke in the air, and it's moving in slow motion for a solid goddamn minute before it finally fades out, which I found that to be a little bit of a problem. Again, though, that honestly is more editing, and that really is one of the only issues when it came to editing is that closing minute, which it didn't have to be in slow motion. It certainly didn't have to be a goddamned minute long. That final shot, did not have to be a minute long and in slow motion. Beyond that, though, everything else in terms of film editing is done really, really well. I really did dig how everything was all edited together. It looks really good. Again, though, I do have to sort of question what the fuck happened between the botched kill on the postman and Ben going to jail. There's some big vast gap there, and either the filmmakers or the fucking editor refused to put it in, or completely forgot to put it in, and so it kind of leaves this giant gap in there, which just doesn't feel right. Color here? Well, there actually is no color. This film is in black and white. But everything here, guys, looks really good, especially for a black and white film. The one and only downside, though, to it being a black and white film is when Ben is bitching about the low-cost housing. One of his huge complaints is that the housing is made out of red bricks. Well, it would have been nice to actually see the red fucking bricks instead of them being one of the numerous shades of fucking gray you get when you film in black and white. But again, that honestly is a minor nothing, and I am not going to hold that against the movie because everything else was fine, minus the fucking middle, which once more I saw that coming, minus the ending, which I also saw coming, which is why I didn't care for the ending. But ultimately, guys, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Man Bites Dog? Kind of, yes. I'm going to tell you right now, your best bet, rent it, or if you can find it on, like, Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Instant fucking Video, anything that isn't a straight-up purchase, I'd say go for it. Give it, and just go ahead and just, give it a watch, and if it's something that you would absolutely love, then by all means buy it. And I have to warn that, especially because the fucking DVD is from the Criterion Collection, and almost everything that is in this fucking collection is grossly overpriced, and that also includes the good and even the great movies. Criterion's got this terrible habit of just gouging their customers. Which is the one thing that also stops me from just saying yes, by all means, yes, go out and buy it. Because I'm not sure if you want to part with that kind of cash. Now, with that in mind, I do also have to warn, the film is subtitled. I know a lot of people are not into subtitles. The movie's in black and white. I know a lot of people are not into black and white. And if those two things are deal breakers for you, then you're probably going to want to avoid this, and unfortunately you're missing out on a really decent movie because you've opted to avoid it. However, once more, I honestly cannot say just rush out and buy it because of the company that put it out and their horrible pricing, practices. Now, if you can find the thing cheap, if you can find this thing on DVD for like $10 or less, then by all means, fuck yeah, pick it up. It is then definitely worth it. At full price, I'd have to say go watch it, somewhere else and actually see if the money would be, well spent. This thing, honestly, this thing is going to sit in my DVD collection because it honestly was totally worth it, and it is definitely worth keeping. It's probably something I'll watch every couple of years, and I honestly thought it was fairly decent. Now, because this is Fan Appreciation Month, Man Bites Dog came off the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Robert, and yes, guys, Robert has sent in quite a few movies, and he's fucking awesome for that. And when you guys have a moment, could you please swing on over to Robert's profile on Amazon, where he has tons and tons of text. He has tons of text reviews on tons and tons of different products. Go over there and just go out there and please give some of those a read. Robert, I thank you. I had no idea if this thing was going to be any good, and it wound up being really decent, minus that goddamned ending. That ending just was a massive letdown for me. However, though, everything else was still totally cool, and I would not have known if you hadn't have sent it in, and that is fucking awesome. Once more, guys, please swing on over to Robert's Amazon profile and check out everything that he has written there. Now, I am kind of sort of in the mood to watch more fucking mockumentaries, and I'm looking over on my shelf, and I do see my Blu-ray of This Is Spinal Tap sitting right there, and I kind of feel like watching that right now, because that sounds like it would be fucking amazing. Anyway, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.